Welcome to building a SharePoint 2016 dev environment. We're going to use AutoSP installer to do it. In this section, we're going to go over the SQL Server component, which is the back end, the backbone, the powerhouse of SharePoint. I'm your host, Stacy Simpkins, and as always, we're going to run into some issues as we go through this. I don't know for sure how many we're going to have in this one, but we'll find out. These are the books. You've heard it all before. And now let's go ahead and get going into the second part of the SQL configuration. The first part really wasn't truly SQL. It was more of an RDP thing, but we did go over adding the drives to SQL that are needed, the additional ones for the data and the logs and the temp files. So in this next section here, we're going to talk about the SQL install and configuration. So previously it was, step 2 really should have been called RDP connections, and step 3, this one's going to be the SQL install and configuration. So let's go ahead and let's get ready for demo time. As you can see here on this SQL Server, when it was being built, the drives were already present. We didn't have to go back in and add them like we did in step 2. So we're going to go ahead now and we're going to jump over to our server and get going on looking at the SQL configuration. All right. First thing you do is get yourself a copy of the evaluation edition of SQL Server 2016, which means you need to rebuild your SharePoint farm every 6 months because your SQL Server will lock up and it will not become able to do anything good. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm downloading the media. Once it finishes, then we'll hop on the SQL box and continue. I'm not going to sit here and talk forever while this happens, so I'm going to pause the video now and continue it again from the SQL Server. I download everything to my host so that all my machines can access it. Okay. All right, here we are on the SQL Server, and you can see we've got all the drives in place, the L drive, ST drive, the data drive. So all the drives are there, and we've got the SQL 2016 Evaluation Edition mounted up there on the DVD drive. The book tells you how to do all that through the, I don't need this anymore. This is basically a download link for what we already have mounted on the E drive. I'm just going to delete that guy. And and then what we're going to do is jump in here and get going on getting this SQL Server installed. So I'm going to open this up. Actually, I'm going to hit that. And what's going to happen is that's going to cause the SQL Server to start up here. Well, actually, it's going to start the install media. So just give it 1 second here. It should be going. What do we have going on here? I think I might have double clicked it. Yeah, I did. So I only need one of these. So I'm just going to close this one. And we're going to hit installation here. And we're going to do a new SQL Server standalone installation. So here we go. Basically, the first few screens just process the nexting through once they open up. So if you thought SharePoint was a exercise in patience, become a SQL Server person. You'll get a real understanding of it. This is the 180-day evaluation, so we definitely need to get using our SharePoint farm and get going with it. So we only have 6 months to work with it. I'm going to click Next, and then I'm going to accept all these terms. Now, I've already read through these terms. You might want to read through them or just realize that, basically, this is an evaluation copy, so don't be doing things for money. So if you're making videos, make sure you're using a licensed copy to make those videos if you're selling them. I'm not selling mine, so I'll do what I want to. Okay, just going to check for some setup files. I'm essentially just reading the screen to you right now. And once it gets past this, then it's going to get to a point where it's going to want to check features. So it's looking for a firewall warning here. It's saying something about firewalls enabled, make sure the appropriate ports are open so that people can get into it. SQL's going to use 1433, so we'll check that later. And we're just going to click OK. Yellows, we can go forward. Reds are critical, or they're errors. These are warnings, these yellow ones, so it's no big deal. So we're going to move forward from that and get to the feature selection. So for this SharePoint, we're not going to go over installing the reporting services piece. We're just going to do the database engine, and then we're coming down here to, well, that's it. Basically, that's all we're going to do is just the database engine. And then we're going to go ahead and click next. We're going to keep the database engine on the C drive. And when we get into the next part, we're going to set up the instance so that it stores its data on different drives. So we're going to leave the default name and click next. And then with the server configuration, we're going to configure it so it's got the instance being stored on the D for the data, and then the logs are going to go on the L drive, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to use these. I'm going to use domain accounts. So I have the SQL service account set up. That's what's going to run these two. I'm currently logged on with the DBA, the SQL DBA. So I just want to make sure that I have that. I'm going to just double check that really quick with a little who am I, see, make sure that I've got the right account logged in. Yep, I'm the SQL admin, so that's cool. So right here, I'm going to do wingtip, and it's going to be SQL SVC. And then here, I'm going to do wingtip and SQL SVC. And then I just need to put the passwords in over here. And same thing here. Now, some posts out there tell you you should change the correlation. I just go ahead and leave it alone because SharePoint will do that anyway when it creates its databases. It doesn't care what's in here. It does not care. And SQL runs best if you just leave this correlation on, from what I've found anyway. So now I'm going to go ahead and click next. And this is where we're going to specify how the instances, stratified in these data directories. But first, we're going to go ahead and add the current user right here. That way we can log into it later. And we're also going to add a local user that I created earlier, and that's named 2016 SQL SA. And we're going to check names on that and then add that guy. The data directories, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to do the databases are going to go on D, the logs are going to go on L, and we'll just use the temp directory for the backups, and the root is still going to be here. The temp DB, actually the backups, let's throw those with the logs, and the temp directory, let's go ahead and make that the T. So that's going to be right. Here's going to be the L. No. Yeah, this is going to be the T right here. That's what we're going to do for the temp log file. Okay, and the data directory. Yeah. Okay, so that's all we're going to do on that. And next, and install. And then it just starts installing. So once it's finished, we'll pick back up. But that's basically all of step 3. And it's just getting the SQL installed. And as far as the SharePoint configuration part of that, we'll pick that up in the part 4 of the video series, where we add the accounts in and everything. So I can hear my dog hacking back there, and I don't mean computer hacking, I just mean like hacking. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. So in step 3, we got the SQL database installed. We haven't gone in and added the login yet for the SharePoint installer account. We'll do that when we get to install SharePoint. We did create a local account for the SA for SQL, and we also gave the SQL admin account SA as well in the instance. Now, you want to make sure that SQL admin account is a local admin before you start to try and do the installation. And then basically just install the database engine. After you're done with that, proceed to step 4. Talk to you guys later, and thank you for watching.